Hello, welcome to this platform. Today we'll be discussing on a very important topic, the science of self-deception. It's possible that you live an entire life based on certain lies you have told yourself, certain things you have come to accept which are false, and you know that these things are false. This is what I call the science of self-deception. And so today I'll be sharing some key elements or principles, if you want, about this art of self-deception. The first thing about self-deception is that people live lives of self-deception. They often have a set of lenses that sees faults and mistakes only in others, never on their own selves. The problem is always with others. The problem is always with the guy on the other side. The problem is always with my colleague, my spouse, my friend, my co-worker. It's never about you. You are perfect. That's self-deceit, self-deception. When people come to tell themselves that they are never wrong, they've gradually started living a life of self-deception, that entering the field or the art or the science of self-deception, because it's always about others. Others are always wrong. I am always right. I can never be wrong. I can never make mistakes. The problem is always with the other person. When you start living a life based on this kind of philosophy, you are entering the field of self-deception. The second thing about self-deception is that people who live lives of self-deception, they never give credit to anyone based on what they've achieved. They never give credit. They always give credit to themselves. They are self-made success stories. No one ever helped them in the process. They were never helped. They don't give compliments to others for what they have achieved. They did it. They did it. They made it by themselves. They are self-made individuals. Meanwhile, when it comes to challenges and problems, they always push aside the blame to others. It's a life of self-deception. When you're taking the credit for all the victories you've ever experienced in life, all the victories, no one helped you. You are entering the art or you're entering the field of self-deception. The third element of self-deception is that people who live a life of self-deceit, they have a track record of other people's mistakes. They can tell you 10 years ago, at this same location, at this same spot, this person said this to me, this person did this. They have a track record. They can always go back and track other people's mistakes and errors. Meanwhile, in the process, they are trying to erase their own mistakes. So they keep a track record. They have it documented. But they are trying also to erase what they have done, especially with the counseling culture that we have today. There are people who are good in keeping other people's mistakes, other people's wrongs, other people's misdeeds, but they're always trying to cover theirs. This is a life of self-deceit. It's a life of self-deception. If you live in this kind of life, you are not true to yourself. You are living a lie. People who live life of self-deception, they overestimate their potentials or they underestimate their potentials. They overestimate their potentials in the sense that they can tell you things that they will do. Meanwhile, they know deep down in them that they cannot do. When they write a resume, they know that I can accomplish this thing, but they still put it there. They tell others what they're going to do and they know they can't do it. They don't have what it takes, but they say it and they make big promises. It's a life of self-deception. It's a life of self-deceit. You're not being true to yourself. Or sometimes there are people that have a lot of potentials, but they underestimate that potential. They have this kind of false humility. God has given them gifts, given them talents, have given them skills. They know they can do this, but they underestimate those potentials and they think that is humility. It's a life of self-deceit. It's not a true life. It's a life that is based on lies. When you don't use your potentials, when you underestimate your potentials, and you know that you're underestimating your potential, you are living a lie. It's self-deception. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help even God. That's not humility. People who live life of self-deceit, they are quick at seeing other people's blind spot. Try at the same moment to reduce their own blind spot. They are quick at criticizing. They are quick at pointing fingers. Meanwhile, they have their own blind spots. They have their own shortcomings. They have their own weaknesses. But they keep driving and looking at other people's blind spot, not looking at their own blind spot. And Christ says that, why do you judge others? Why you do the same things that take away the plank from your eyes so that you can see the mistakes of others? So focus on your own self to take away those blind spots. Repeated failures, change, the fear of rejections are the fields where self-deception thrives. When change comes, people are not true to themselves. And everything is normal. You can see people, people can move around and they can do things and not true to themselves. When change comes, people are not longer true to themselves. When people have had repeated failures, they have failed and they have failed and they have failed. They get into the area of self-deception. They are no longer true to themselves. When people are afraid that they'll be rejected, they'll be ridiculed, they get into self-deception. They're no longer true to themselves. They hide behind certain things and even their accomplishment just to hide some of those bitter experiences that they have had in life. These are some of the keys of self-deception, and I hope that you're able to look at yourself and say that this is not true about me. This area is a lie. I am living a lie in this area. This is not who I am. Tell yourself the truth. You don't want to live the rest of your life on a lie that you have told yourself, and sometimes you make people to believe that lie.